Welcome back to the Sports Max Zone, and it's time for some football. Action in the English Premier League resumed on Tuesday, with 9th place Brighton hosting 3rd place Chelsea in a rescheduled fixture. We have the highlights.
Jorginho. Lukaku. Azpilicueta. Almost batted away by Robert Sanchez.
Yeah, good play that. Nice football from Chelsea, good run.
Here's Conte. Now Ziyech. Back to Conte. Ziyech taking aim. And that aim was deadly.
Did it go through outstretched legs? Yes, it did. And it just does him at the near post. He's travelled a long way. There's a slight deflection on that as well, but he pitches it in front of the goalkeeper. He's got to do better. He's got to expect someone like Hakim Ziyech can pop that one in the corner.
Cucurella. Neatly done by Modetu. Cucurella. There's McAllister. Big deflection en route towards goal and a big readjustment from Kepa. McAllister. And a free hit for the equalising goal. It was Webster that arrived. And Adam Webster, with his first Premier League goal of the season, levels it up for Brighton.
Just watch him at the back post. Just see him there, make that run, then all of a sudden he just drops back into a central position. The yellow shirts get dragged under the ball. Nobody's really sure.
That is that. 1-1 for the second time in 3 weeks between Brighton and Chelsea. An 11th draw of the season for the stalemate specialists, Brighton and Hove Albion.
A 1-1 draw there between Chelsea and Brighton. Let's take a look now at the EPL table. How are the standings looking? We have Manchester City. They sit comfortably in first position on 56 points. Liverpool in second on 45. Chelsea, after today's match, they still remain in third position. They have a total of 44 points. They're 12 points behind the leaders, Manchester City. West Ham United in fourth. Arsenal right there trying to creep up into the top four. They're on 35 points. What about Brighton after today's match? They also remain in ninth position. They've played 21 matches, a total of 29 points. Well, our football correspondent, Simon Evans, he joins us now. Simon, what did you make of today's contest?
Well, I was very impressed with Brighton again. I mean, Brighton really are enjoying a super season. Their manager, Graham Potter, has done a great job with that side. They really play as a unit. You can see why a lot of clubs, Everton amongst them, are reported to be interested in taking him on as a manager. But very disappointing again from Chelsea. I think that's 1 win in 7 now from them. Really faded this season. And again, as we were talking about yesterday, Thomas Tuchel cutting a frustrated figure on the sideline.
Yeah. And you know, Thomas Tuchel, after that loss to Manchester City, he was quick to talk about the attack and, you know, blame the loss on the attack. Based on what we saw from Manchester City, and then we look today at the match against Brighton, did you see any major changes, any sort of improvements?
No, not really. There's a similar problem. They don't seem to be getting the best out of Lukaku, and it seems to have become again quite a narrow formation. They've had injuries, which has limited their options at wing back, which was so important for them. But they just weren't really playing with the kind of fluency that we saw early in the season. And yes, they've had injuries. Yes, they've had players out for different reasons. But so have other teams, and they have big squads for a reason. And if I was a Chelsea supporter, I'd be quite disappointed by the way this season is going.
Of course, Simon, the big question here is defensive. The Chelsea, I think the first 6 or 7 games, maybe 10 games into the season, they had only conceded 4 goals. They've conceded 18 goals now, and they seem to be very, very leaky at the back. Is it that Ben Chilwell is that much missed in that back line?
No, I don't think it's so much that. I think even when they weren't conceding goals, some of the performances Chelsea had where they kept even a clean sheet or just conceded 1, there were a lot of last-ditch tackles if you look back on those games. Thiago Silva's brilliant at reading the game. Rudiger is superb at making those last-ditch tackles. But you don't really want to be putting your defence in a position where they have to do that. And over time, that will catch up with you. So I don't think the Chelsea unit has been as solid as maybe the statistics suggested earlier in the season.
And another thing is that what I've noticed is that they tend to sit, they start to sit deep, too deep now, as opposed to previously when they were always on the front foot, it seems. Is it this that this side is losing their confidence and their ability to win games? And we've 7 draws now suggests that they've kind of forgotten how to win.
Well, I think a lot of that does have to do with the fullbacks they've got missing. Reece James was having a brilliant season at right back. He was really in great form, and he's a big loss for them because he was able to make that push out of defence, into midfield and straight into attack, make those transitions lively. Chilwell did the same on the left-hand side, and it's really not been the same without them. Now, the midfield they've got is quite set up for sort of sitting. Jorginho and Kante are basically 2 defensive midfielders primarily, and they're just not finding that link between the defence and players who can open teams up, and there just doesn't seem to be that flow to the Chelsea that there was earlier on.
Yes, Simon, what we know about Chelsea's owners is they're used to winning and they have zero tolerance for losing. So Thomas Tuchel, we have to bring this into the discussion. It is a point of, talking and analysing. If Thomas Tuchel continues with this result, let's just say the end of the season comes and he doesn't bring a trophy to the owners, is it that his job will be in problems?
Could be. I mean, it does seem strange to be talking about it because, of course, he obviously won the Champions League just last year in May, June. So that achievement you would have thought would have bought him some time, but there isn't much buying of time at Chelsea, as you rightly point out. And there's something doesn't feel right there at the moment. It's not just that Lukaku interview and the dispute about it. Just watching the team and their body language and the way they're performing. It doesn't seem a happy team. We talked a lot about how Tuchel doesn't seem happy either. So something's not quite right there. I can't put my finger on what exactly it is because all teams are dealing with injuries and fixture congestion and so on. But something's out of place at Chelsea, and he has to put that right in the next few months because one thing's for sure, this last month's form that they've had, 1 win from 7, if they continue that to the end of the season, he certainly will be in real risk of losing his job.
Are they out of the title race?
I think so, yes. I think, if anyone's going to catch Manchester City this year, I think it would be Liverpool. Even that is a big stretch at the moment because City just don't look like losing games.
Yeah, well, Simon, thank you so much for your time. We know you're going to be staying with us, so stand by. We're taking a quick break and coming back. Well, action in the EPL continues on Wednesday with 2 more rescheduled matches. Leicester will host Tottenham, while Manchester United will travel to Brentford. Ahead of this clash against Leicester City, Spurs manager Antonio Conte reiterated his displeasure at the postponement of Sunday's North London derby against Arsenal.
I think the club made a statement, and I think that the club expressed our disappointment about the decision. It was for sure a strange decision. But I think the club made an important statement to tell about our disappointment for the decision. My feeling that when there is the situation to play, we have to play, and not to to postpone games for injuries, for international duty, or for I think that we have a big problem to solve, that is COVID, but only about this situation you can decide to postpone. Otherwise, for other situation, honestly, this is my first time in my life, and I think that I had a bit of experience in football to see this type of decision, and it was very strange because in this way anything can happen, everything can happen.
Simon, is Antonio Conte bitter, or does he have a case?
I think he does have a case with that one. I mean, certainly there's been a lot of eyebrows raised about Arsenal loaning out players at the moment as well, and looking at doing transfer deals when they say they don't have enough players to take the field. If you don't have enough players to take the field, why are you loaning out players? The whole business of taking into account players who are at the African Cup of Nations, players who are injured and so on, is not why the Premier League brought these special procedures into place. It was to deal with COVID. Now, I get it that if you have 5 players injured and then you get 3 COVID players, that's 8 players out. So they have to sort of take that into account. But when you start looking at all the other things, these clubs have huge squads. You know, some of them have more than 40 or 50 players if you count the youth team players. And in an extraordinary situation where players are testing positive and being forced to isolate and so on, is it really beyond the rounds of expectation that should put out a side with 1 or 2 young players in there who are inexperienced? It's what used to happen in football when we had much smaller squads and teams would get hit by injuries. So I think there's a lot of disappointment with the way that Arsenal were able to get that decision. But, you know, it is an extraordinary situation. There isn't, as I've said on this show a few times now, there isn't transparency about it. I would like to see a list from every club when they apply for their game to be postponed, saying exactly who is missing and why and what their situation is.
Yeah, because Arsenal has 1 COVID case that is on record.
Right.
Is the FA sending mixed signals and it's confusing everybody and making, getting the level of frustration that we saw from Conte a while ago?
Yeah, I think the Premier League have stuck with the decision that they made at the start, that they'll take each game on its merits, that they'll look at it and they want to see that teams have 13 plus 1 players available, but it seems to be interpreted as senior players or regular first-team players. I think that's where a lot of frustration of fans and other people is that, as I said, if you have these big squads of players, and some of them play regularly in the Carabao Cup or in the FA Cup and so on, and you look at it and you think, well, if you can play them in those competitions, really, you can't play them for a couple of games when you're short-handed.
Of course, Simon, we're almost out of time. But Ronaldo is a doubt for the Brentford match. I mean, how dependent are Manchester United on him, given what we've seen from them recently? Just on the past weekend, they looked good against Aston Villa in the first half, but then we're overrun in the second half for a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, it's interesting one, isn't it? We'll see. There's been a lot of people have said that Ronaldo disrupted United and caused more problems than he solved. But if you look at his goal-scoring record, he's pretty much the reason why they're still in the Champions League. So we'll see if he doesn't play at Brentford, will they miss him? I think they will. I think despite everything people say about the pressing game and the movement and all the rest of it, having somebody there who can score goals so well and so frequently as Cristiano Ronaldo is bound to be an absence when he's out injured.
Yeah, looking forward to see how that one turns out. Simon, thank you so much for your time and, of course, your expertise. We'll chat again.
All right, cheers. All the best.
Take it easy.
Simon Evans there, our football correspondent. We're going to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.